Okay, welcome back. I'm here with Shona Thomson, who's a creative producer, film curator based in Edinburgh and founder of Kind of Seeing.
Hello.
Hi. Shona's particularly known for her work with archive films across Scotland and has a special knack for making archive film screenings very cool. Shona and I first met while I was doing a postgraduate work at the Film Exhibition Curation Department at the University of Edinburgh, where she's a guest lecturer. Shona, thank you so much for being with us today.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Real pleasure to be here.
So tell us a little bit about your background. How did you get into showing films, and particularly archive films, across Scotland?
Well, it's a bit of a long story, I suppose, and I'll try and keep it short, but it kind of started off. I studied film at university in Liverpool, and very quickly decided I didn't want to make films. And when I left school, I actually started working at the Edinburgh International Film Festival. I am from here and grew up here, and so that was quite an experience and really sort of formed a lot of what I wanted to do. And so needed to make some money and ended up as a PA, as a personal assistant for 10 years, working in property development. And so that's a rather bizarre start to it all. But at the same time, I was living this parallel life with programming at Edinburgh International Film Festival. So I was watching documentaries by the bucket load in the evening, and then getting up and going to work and chatting with lawyers and solicitors during the day. So that carried on for, as I say, about 10 years. But I became a PA at the National Library of Scotland, which is where the Moving Image Archive is, our sort of national film collection. And that was quite amazing. I got a chance to sort of see behind the scenes in my daily work, and I got a chance to sort of just spend a bit of time with the films in there. And then it all kind of came together, and I managed to do one event called A Kind of Seeing in 2009 at the film festival. They knew me and they kind of trusted me, I guess. And so I put this event together of showing archive films with Janet McBain, who at the time was the head curator at the archive, and set up the Scottish Screen Archive as it was. And showed a film called A Kind of Seeing, which has really inspired me, which was made by an amazing filmmaker called Eddie McConnell in the 1960s. And Eddie came along to the screening.
Wow.
So it was sort of the first time that bring the films in a big screen setting to an audience with the filmmaker. And that's what I do a lot, is makes it sometimes quite special.
Yeah, sort of live sort of event experiences is what you do.
Yeah, and just making that real connection between the film and the people who are watching the film. Whether that's folk who are coming to the Edinburgh Film Festival, or whether that's people who are going to the Screen Machine, the mobile cinema that goes around the Highlands and Islands, whether it's folk in a library in Girvan. It's actually making that connection for people, I guess, in some respects, and then they just run with it during the event. So watching the films and then having the blether afterwards, which I do a lot, sort of having a chat afterwards. Sorry, using Scots there with and unconsciously.
So you're about to do the Glasgow Film Festival is underway right now, and you're about to do an archive event with Glasgow Film Festival, correct?
Yeah, it's really, really exciting, actually. It's quite a real development for me in what I do with A Kind of Seeing. I was approached by Jodie Wilkinson at Glasgow Film, and Jodie's all about the kind of the outreach of Glasgow Film, of the festival, of GFT, the cinema as well, and about connecting what's happening in the cinema with the wider community and access as well. So she was doing these movie memories season, which was a kind of funded program that's been happening for just over a year now, I think. And it's originally been as for folk who live with dementia and their carers. And that programme kind of developed then. Jodie worked with her colleague Becca, who does the sort of schools and education work, and they wanted to do something together. And so they were working with groups already in the Maryhill area of Glasgow, and they asked me to come along and do some curation with those 4 groups to work with the groups to talk about what's important to them in their community, because it's just working with that power of archive film, that when you watch the films of places where you're maybe from or that you know really, really well, there's a real sort of magic that happens in the room that folk are like, oh gosh, recognise that. So it's kind of working with that and actually doing it in a live settings. So these groups have been working with them since December, and we are putting together these programs of films that are specific to what they're talking about, what they're interested in, whether that's McDonald's. There's a lot of chat about McDonald's. It's very popular in Maryhill.
Wow.
Also, what else? There's the dancing. You know, folk remember the dancing at the Locarno and at the Barras, the ballroom. So the event is on the 3rd of March at Glasgow Film Festival, and it's going to be happening in Maryhill Community Central Hall, in the Seymour Cinema, which happens in that. It's an amazing space. It used to be a cinema in itself. And it's a fantastic space. It's got an organ and everything. We're not sure we're going to be able to use it, but so we're going to screen the films, and the groups are going to actually present themselves the films that they've been selecting, and I've been editing together with them. It should be a great kind of afternoon.
Fantastic.
So that's on at 12 o'clock. It's just been amazing for me to kind of almost rediscover the archive with these groups.
Great. It sounds like a really wonderful event that we all should go to.
Yeah, and it's free as well. So it's definitely, and I believe tickets are going like hotcakes.
You've done a lot of work with the Hippodrome Silent Film Festival over the years as well, right?
Yes, I was the original producer in that. It was actually while I was a PA at the National Library of Scotland, I got contacted by Falkirk Council, who'd already done a feasibility study for this idea of a silent film festival, and they wanted someone to produce something in its first year, in that someone who would sort of do the coordination of it. Alison Strauss, who is the programmer and sort of arts development officer for film and media at the council, so she was already programming the Hippodrome, which had just opened in 2009. And so she would programmed it all, and then I was doing on the production side. So that kind of sort of coordination of print traffic, getting films to the cinema, and getting musicians to the cinema too. So it was quite a risk, to be honest. It was fascinating because it was the council had been part of this big refurbishment of this amazing cinema. So it's this Hippodrome. If anyone doesn't know about it already, they should go. But it's in a place called Bowness, which is just a couple of miles north of Linlithgow on the train line. And it's an amazing town. It's got an amazingly rich history of mining, and as a port as well. And so this refurbishment of the cinema, which is at the centre of the town, was a real part of that regeneration in 2009. And it's Scotland's oldest purpose-built cinema. So it was built in 1912 specifically for watching films, and specifically for watching silent films as well. So it's in this circular auditorium, and all the musicians that play there say that it's a beautiful tone. It's wooden panelled inside. It's got a balcony as well, and so it was a bit of a risk in some ways to say, well, let's do a silent film festival. You know, it's silent. There's black and white films. Who's really interested in that? But there was a real kind of drive to make it happen across the kind of the film exhibition sector at the time. And what was really special about it was the idea of bringing live music back into the cinema, back into this building that was built for it. So Ali put together this amazing programme, and we got the support of some fantastic musicians like Neil Brand, who you can see now on television just about every other day, which is great. And he came, and Stephen Horn was another amazing musician. So there's a real again, pride and kind of like love for this building, bringing in these musicians and audiences from all over the country and sometimes the world, and also an amazing film program. And so I produced that for the first 5 years. So the Hippodrome Festival is now in its 9th year, and it's actually happening next month. It happens every March. And so it starts on the 16th of March with a screening of The Hound of the Baskervilles in the Barony Theatre, which should be fantastic. Mike Nolan, who's a great stalwart of the festival, will be performing piano for that. And then it kicks in earnest on the Wednesday, the 20th of March, with a brilliant evening screening of Rob Roy on the Wednesday night. And just carries on through for like just days, 5 days of just absolute joy of silent film with the live music, and that's so important. It's always been at the heart of what the festival's been about, and it's just so I feel so proud to have been part of that team that sort of set it up.
And there's quite a big following of silent film, right? So there's a lot of people who come to Bo'ness for this event, correct?
Yeah, it's part of the calendar now. Yeah, absolutely. And, there's there's other film festivals that go on. There's Slapstick down south in Bristol, but really, and there's also the British Silent Film Festival as well, which is very much led by academics and has a real real magnifying close-up look into the silent era, and that whole world. Bo'ness has a slightly lighter touch in some respects, in that it's open to the public that can come along and just get a feel for what silent film is actually like. It's not silent. I think it's actually a bit of a misnomer to call it silent. It's very not silent at all. When you have either a pianist banging away at a beautiful piano in the cinema, very full of skill, obviously, or you've got a band. So for example, we had Mark Kermode, the film critic, and his the band that he plays with, the Dodge Brothers, with Neil Brand and Ali Hergy and Mike and Alex Hammond.
I know we really want to go this year, and I've been to the Bo'ness, the Hippodrome, and it's such a beautiful space. So I totally. So you've done a lot of work with pairing archive films and local musicians, maybe coming out of this work, and you're working on one right now, right?
Yeah, that came from the. It was actually in the early years of when I was working with the Hippodrome Festival. I came across some films of what was known as the silent divas of Italian cinema, and I thought these are great, and Ali loved them as well. But we just never found performers to actually go with it in some respects, and that's really important to make that sort of that choice. You need to have folk that are into the film, obviously, and also really get that experience. It's not just them performing on stage with a film behind them. And I know a lot of musicians would never feel that, but it's real art as well. It's if it's an hour and a half long film, you just don't stop. You play, and you can't stop. The film will not stop for you. It's not like tracks or anything. You're just constantly going, and we're all in this together. You've got an audience who are just hanging on your every note. So I love these silent divas films. The women were so strong. And in the industry themselves at the time, so this is the 1910s, they were really powerful. So they were very popular actresses. They were on the stage, but they were also on the screen, and so they were very popular with audiences. So they could be quite controlling and influencing in what films they would star in and what would get money as well. And so there was 3 or 4 of them, and one of them was Francesca Bertini, who is this incredible woman, and she was in this film called Assunta Spina, and it is one of the most famous ones, and so many have been lost, of course, as well over the years, and this is one of the few ones that survived. So and there's no laughs. Do you know? It's real hard hitting kind of stuff. I mean, she's in love with 2 guys and torn between them, and it's all very passionate, and there's a bit of face slashing going on and things. It's like a lot of jealousy and revenge, but she is front and center, which is something you don't always see, and she is very strong. And it was only a few years later that it was actually confirmed and agreed that she did co-direct the film. So as well as starring in it, she was co-directing it, and it just sort of struck me as like, well, that needs to be recognised, and it's something that maybe still happens today potentially, of those sort of like women that aren't heard of so much in the film industry. So it's I thought it was really important to sort of work with it, and I met a guy called Alistair Cole at a party. And I said, well, what do you do? I said, oh, well, I'm a filmmaker, but I'm also in a band, a Southern Italian folk band. I was like, oh, right, okay. And so Assunta Spina came through my mind. This was like 5-6 years after I'd first seen the film. And I was really keen that Assunta Spina is the name of the character, Francesca Bertini's character. And I was really keen that she had a voice that it was a female voice, it was a female-led band. And indeed, the Badwills, the band that Alistair was in, has Elena Zini, who is the lead singer, and she's just brilliant, just so beautiful. And they were totally up for it. They do Mediterraneo. They just had one on Saturday, actually, here at Summer Hall. And so they have a big following, and they have this just real excitement about what they do, and playfulness, which I think is part of it. It's sort of like you're sharing the stage with this film and with your actors. So that's Assunta Spina. It was a great process that they've put together this amazing score that we're now touring, and so Glasgow Film Festival and I commissioned the new score, and we had the premiere last year. So since that premiere, I've been working on getting funding in to actually tour it, to get it around Scotland. I think it's a really important story that folk would be interested to see, and as I say, that kind of hidden histories of women in filmmaking. So we got some funding from the BFI's, the British Film Institute's Film Hub Scotland, and also PRS for Music Foundation. And now we're also collaborating with a great pair of curators called Invisible Women, which is Rachel Pronger and Camilla Bayer. And as well as the films, we're showing a selection of short films that they have programmed that are specifically from the British heritage, moving image heritage collections, that are around what other filmmakers that have just not been recognised. And it's about getting that voice coming through.
That sounds wonderful. So just recap, when is the tour going on? Give us a couple dates for the tour.
Yep, so the tour is starting on Saturday the 2nd of March in Eden Court at Inverness, the amazing multi-art centre there, but in the cinema. And as I say, we'll have the Invisible Women programme there. And then on Sunday the 3rd of March in the evening at Dundee Contemporary Arts. So that's going to be smashing, because that's part of the Dundee Women's Festival. So I'm hoping we'll get a good crew along. So do let everyone know about that. And then the following weekend, on Saturday the 9th of March, we're up to the West Side Cinema in Stromness Town Hall in Orkney. It's a really strong cinema there, cinema night that happens every Saturday in the month. And after the film, there's going to be a wee bit wild and furious dancing with the Badwills and their music. So really looking forward to that. And then the final date, this part of the tour, is Sunday the 10th of March at 7:30 in Leith Arts Centre. Leith is in Caithness, so right up in the northeast. And it's a great smashing venue as well, doing all sorts of arts and performance. And so really, really pleased to be there. Again, there'll be a bit of wild dancing afterwards as well.
Well, thank you, Shona, for being with us. And sounds like some amazing events we're going to have to come to in this spring. Yeah,
absolutely. And tell your friends. There's akindofseeing.co.uk is the website. And for Assunta Spina, it's silentdivas.com.